Right, hello everyone. Well, this week's episode's a bit of a mixed bag. I decided to order all the parts to make my collective finally. I've done all my little drawings and everything, and I ordered the Leo Bodner board and all the switches and everything that goes with it, and that's all arrived. And I've spent a few days playing around with that. And I'd actually ordered 2 Hall effect sensors, and then I ordered some separate magnets, those neodymium magnets, and I intended to build a collective that was going to use the Hall effect sensor, very similar to the RH shifter here and the sensor at the back. And my idea originally was to place the magnets here and have the sensor on a board underneath, so I would get a greater range of movement with it. And in fact that's proved not very successful at all. It doesn't matter how strong the magnet is and the Hall effect sensor, it has to be much closer and the amount of movement much smaller than I anticipated. So as most of you had seen, I did a pretty bodged job on this the last time I showed the video on it, and the hot glue gun featured greatly. Well, this time I took everything off, made a nice bracket for it, mounted it inside the unit. I'll show a still or two in a minute. And although the amount of movement is slightly reduced, I've managed to, in the curves in X-Plane, get round that. And if I show you the curves, you can see I don't get the full amount of travel anymore. I'm only getting it from there to there. And the reason was I had to move the Hall effect sensor closer to the magnet. But I do get a very, very good response over that distance. And it's also the full travel of the stick. So it works very well from that point of view. So I tidied everything up. I've done a much better job on the back of this. You'll also notice that where I had a great big syringe before, on here I was trying to obtain a really sticky feel to it, a bit more like a hydraulic feeling. It was absolutely brilliant, but it didn't last. So I've placed another damper back on. I've got 2 here now. They've both got very small holes drilled at the bottom of them, so they act more like cycle pumps going up and down. And then I took a, I'm going to call it a Teflon carving board, something that you would carve your meat on. Made this square here and cut a groove in it, and with a bracket here. I can angle it just very slightly to give me a bit of friction on this shaft that goes up and down. So I've actually managed to get it that the collective will actually stay put where I leave it, and it's working really well at the moment. So the only thing that's not working, buttons again at the moment. So I'll probably end up using what I've got here and then actually maybe use the Leo Bodner stuff to do the button box at the top. So let's just have a fly around. It's been a good week for me. As you know, I suffer with this dystonia where sometimes I get very, very shaky. And this week it's been better than usual. So hopefully this will reflect in the flying that we're about to do. But you can see it's a very gradual, very progressive, very smooth the way it's working, much better than it was working before. We just circle around the pad, and the amount of movement going from there, if I go full pull up, and then we go full down, the left pedal there to get drop descent sorted out. But it's working really well. I'm really pleased with it. So if I can get the buttons sorted out, I might well progress with this as a unit in the meanwhile. Well, that is until I can afford my Puma full flight system, which hopefully one day I'll be able to get. But so let's just have a little fly around. Now the Cabri this week has been upgraded, and I was corresponding with the chap that developed the Cabri, and it's slightly less skittish, I'm going to say, as you come in. So for landings, one of the things I was saying in some of the videos before was that it was very difficult to get it down without forward movement and get it into a hover. Well, he's worked on that, and it's a big improvement. It really is a nice helicopter to fly around with at the moment. So you can get down into the hovers quite easily. Pull back. A little bit right pedal as we come in. A little bit, maybe too much. A bit more pedal, and there we go. So apart from the Leo Bodmer stuff that I purchased just recently, I'd also purchased a remote control unit that is used for aircraft simulators on a PC. I used to have one years ago when I used to fly RC and practice all my 3D flying with it, and I was on Amazon, and the price for a plug-in radio control unit was about £35 with a little simulator program, and I thought, well, I'll give it a go, and I might be able to use electronics from that to maybe make some knobs and dials, because it's USB, got a couple of joysticks, got a couple of potentiometers on there, and I was interested whether you could actually plug it into X-Plane and fly a helicopter, X-Plane helicopter, using a remote control device, as if you were standing there flying it around, and it is possible. So I'll jump forward in a minute to just showing you the device, and then what can be done using it. Right, so as I mentioned a little bit earlier in the video, I've got something a bit more unusual to show you. I purchased the RC transmitter and flight simulator, radio control flight simulator. Years ago I used to use these for practicing 3D flying, and obviously save you a lot of money learning upside down, inside out type manoeuvres. But I sold it when I couldn't fly radio control helicopters anymore, and I originally bought this because I thought this would be a good interface, because it would give me a lot of the controls that I need to make my collective out of. But it actually came with some really good software. I think it was about £35 off Amazon. I'll leave a link in the bottom. So it comes with an awful lot of helicopters for you to play around with. Now, I used to fly thumbs on, and now I don't have the feeling in my thumbs or the motor control, so I have to fly like two fingers, which is quite slow and quite hard to do. But just to give you an idea of what you get for your money anyway. So you rocket backwards and forwards, left and right, down, we hover. So, you know, if you ever wanted to learn radio control helicopters, do it cheaply. You can get this for about 40 quid, and it will give you all the fundamentals of learning normal helicopter flight, plus obviously ones that are hard, coming towards you a bit like that, very rusted. So it's more just to show you what what you get with the package and with the money to start off with. The problem I have is that I get no feedback really from the muscle movements on my fingers anymore, and at least they're not shaking today, but it would make, as you imagine, when I used to fly real radio control helicopters, very expensive for one part. So anyway, there's one model. Right, so here we are again. Here's another model, one of the scale models that they supply with it, a BO, and hopefully I'll be able to at least get it up and hovering. It's so odd using all of my fingers to try and do this where I was used to using my thumbs all the time. But you know, it flies really well. If I was back into helicopter models, as I say, the system I bought years ago was hundreds of pounds to learn to fly 3D and do it on the PC, and it didn't look this good. Again, the transmitter on the software that I had, I could use my own radio control transmitter. Is obviously a very good one, and this one is a bit plasticky, and you know, the spring's not great, and I'm sure it's never going to last a lifetime. But the fact that you get all these models, you can have a great deal of fun doing this, and the fact that, as you'll see later on, it will also link into X-Plane. It really has been a great deal of fun today doing this, and bringing back a few memories, because this was such a big part of my life, radio control helicopters, for a long while. Oh, don't get better. But it's also become obvious why I had to give it up and not keep it going on. Same. Sorry, lost the train of thought there. So you can see, you know, once get into a bit of a swing, I'm not used to using all my fingers, figure of eights. Right, so we've got this cheap 30 odd pound helicopter simulator, which works brilliantly on its own in the PC if you want to learn to do it. You can plug it in, and X-Plane recognises it as a controller. So let me just turn the sound down a bit. So I'm going to jump over back into X-Plane, and basically if we go for a view outside, external still, drop down a bit, go forward a bit. The controls will now operate the helicopter as if it was a radio control helicopter. So, bringing it round, goes forward, out, spin for you. So you can actually fly your X-Plane helicopters with a radio control transmitter, and some would say probably fly it slightly better. As I say, I originally bought it just because I thought it was going to be a cheap way of getting a collective and an interface into X-Plane, rather than buying the Leo Bodner board. Now I've ended up keeping this because on certain days I can fly and do a little bit of radio control stuff, and You can also do it obviously in X-plane here. And these are probably better landings than I do from inside the cockpit. So very slow pirouettes. Down. One skid on the floor. Great shot. Videos for fun. Wonky Joystick Productions. Don't forget, subscribe. 60 subscribers now. I'm amazed. I'm absolutely amazed. But I just wanted to show you this. The other flying on the simulator I'm embarrassed about, because if you look up on YouTube 3D flying or radio control flying and see what these guys are capable of now, it is unbelievable. But here we are, a cheap transmitter flying X-plane as if it was a radio controlled helicopter. Let's fly off into the distance to make a nice finish, and just say, as usual, I'm sorry if I do go on about my complaint. I want to promote the fact that so many people get dystonia and they get the shakes and they don't realise what it is, and there is lots of help if you get it early on. And I have good and bad days. So some days I can't work, you know, even at home. I'm retired now, but you don't feel like you want to work. And other days like today, it's a good day, and this has worked out better than I ever expected. And I'm just glad those radio control ones weren't really mine, because they would have cost us a fortune. Let's do a close flyby. Well, maybe it'll inspire you. I'll put a link into where I purchased. I only got it off Amazon. I'll put a link into where I purchased it from, and hopefully you'll enjoy if you do the same, and have a go at flying helicopters in X-plane. I take airplanes exactly the same. It's just going to be a bit harder. Can you imagine doing this with a Boeing or something like that? Oh my god, that would be difficult. There we go. Well, again, thanks for watching. Greatly appreciated. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I'll go on with my ramblings, and we'll see where we end up. Thanks very much, and see you next week.